Hi, welcome to Rare Conversations. This is Rich Friend, and we're coming to you from Pescadero. Beautiful May morning, and I'm with John O'Connor, one of the Rare agents, and who has the listing for Via Paraíso, which is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home, nestled kind of in Pescadero, right in the heart of it. I'll let John just do a brief description of where we're at and kind of tell you a little bit about the property, and then we'll get into your bio.
Sounds good, Richie. Well, yeah, as you said, we're here at Via Paraíso. We're just down the Baja Beans Road, about 5-7 minute walk, depending on how quickly you can shuffle to the beach here. Kind of nestled in this back little lush corner. I always tell people when we're here, like, how quiet it is.
It really surprised me coming in here, and I've been here before, but just the space of it just, like 700 for down here is a little smaller than a lot of lots in Pescadero, but the privacy and how things are spread out is just amazing. Yeah. Really nice.
It's a really nice use of space, and indoor outdoor living, like a lot of stuff in Baja, and just really well designed.
Well, so and there's a nice little Colorado connection, because also John moved down from Summit County, which is where I moved down from, and one of the owners of this house actually lives in Denver.
In Denver, yeah. I think he lives in Lohi, he said.
So there's a nice, obviously there's a Colorado contingency in this area, but a lot of, like John and I, people from the mountains who just kind of maybe got a little tired of winter, maybe just wanted a change of life. There seems to be a strong contingency of Coloradoans in the whole area.
Absolutely. There's a lot in Pescadero and Cerritos. We always joke that this area, we call it Summit County South.
Yep, it's true. So I'd like to get into John and kind of the history, because John and I, now how long have you been with Rare now?
A little over
a year, right? Yep. And John came in and we did a few interviews, and I really I was like, oh, I hope this guy winds up working with us, because his level of professionalism, his level of knowledge of the industry itself was excellent. You could tell how he had his past operating at a level that he did. I was like, oh, I hope he picks this company, and I know you were shopping around, and I'm really glad you landed with Rare. Give us a little history of kind of your bio. I know you have a strong marketing background. You have a real estate background. You came up from Keller Williams of Los Cabo, where you had some prestigious honors with them. So give us a little background of your real estate and marketing history.
Yeah, so marketing goes way back to my days of actually working with the WWF in Connecticut. And I did some promotions and marketing for them before I moved out west. And then my career prior to real estate was in radio stations, and it was all advertising, marketing, sales, and community relations and stuff along those lines. So I did that for a long time, and then I was kind of looking for something new after about 15 years. It was kind of like time to freshen things up, and got into the real estate world in Colorado. I mean, I always joke that actually I sold my first house in Oregon at a garage sale. We were living in Bend at the time, and we had a garage sale, and somebody came up and was asking me about the house, and I was like, well, would you like to buy it? And they were like, actually, we would. And that was my first sale. I wasn't even a realtor or anything at that point. But we had always bought and sold some properties. We ran some Airbnbs. We had done some property investing and stuff, so it seemed like the natural transition then to when we went back to Colorado to get my license, and started with Keller Williams, top of the Rockies in Breckenridge and Frisco. I'm still licensed with them. I still hang my license with Keller Williams, top of the Rockies, and I still do a little bit of business in Colorado, but obviously focused down here now. And then we ended up, the Keller Williams connection was sort of what got me into San Jose, and I worked with Keller Williams Cabo Paradise for quite a while.
So you, the Keller Williams system, if a lot of people don't know the history, I'm sure John could tell us, because you had actually shared with me the book by Gary Keller, and I'm just actually halfway through with it now, and it's a great kind of resource for building a company and building systems. And I think you've taken a lot from that system.
Yeah, so I mean, Gary Keller obviously wrote the book on building a real estate business. Keller Williams is the largest real estate company in the world by headcount and dollar volume, I believe. But it doesn't operate that way. Each office operates like its own boutique agency. So I really was drawn to that because even back in the world, my radio world, I worked for an independently owned family, husband and wife radio station. I didn't work in corporate radio or anything like that. And that's always important to me. And Keller, for a multinational corporation, was able to kind of make that model work on a smaller scale. And that's why when I moved to Todos, I went directly to you because I know that's you in this market, and you have a small family-owned boutique agency that actually has the largest market share and have still been able to maintain that like local family on the ground, like really just kind of amazing business atmosphere.
And by sheer luck and coincidence, I guess.
I'm sure it's a little more than that, Richie.
but the nice thing about it, and I'd like to get in with John's background, I would also like to pay kudos to John's wife, Jamie, who is, I will call a career/life coach kind of, and I've done some work with Jamie where she's helped me significantly see some larger pictures. And one thing about John coming from a large international company is that John was able to share with me as a broker kind of certain ideas, certain systems that worked. Now, when he came up, I remember like you saying, basically you did everything because Keller Williams, and being an independent office, there was kind of no top echelon, so you were doing everything yourself, basically operating on your own. So I think it was a transition when you came up here to work with a company that kind of has a legal team, a closing team, a listing team, and stuff like that.
Yeah, a big change. Keller starts you out basically as like an independent agent, and then as you grow your own business, you grow your own business within that company. So I was still doing everything on my own down here, especially, and contracting with different groups and title companies and stuff like that. But then coming over to the team here, the enticing thing was that we had in-house closing, legal, and down here having in-house legal and somebody you can talk to and call or text or WhatsApp and ask questions about is just impossible to put a value on that because there are so many intricacies to the legal the legal stuff down here when it comes to real estate. So that was huge, and then having the support with somebody like you who's been down here doing this for 20 years, and while you might not be a lawyer on paper, you have that level of understanding and knowledge of contracts and real estate law and all of that. So that is a totally different world, and something that I've really enjoyed and has really helped me grow in my career and helped me to learn more. Because on the Keller side, I think it was more focused on sales and marketing, and then you kind of outsource the rest of everything in a sense. And here we sort of do we're all kind of involved in every aspect of the process.
So I spoke about, have you actually taken any tutelage from Jamie as far as you've got a strong marketing background. I mean, you did radio, you've been in tourist areas of real estate, Summit County. John and I are kind of mirrors each other. We both grew up back east. We moved to, you moved to Oregon, then Colorado.
No, Colorado.
Colorado.
I only went to Oregon for a brief stint.
Okay. But you moved to the mountains. I moved to the mountains from back east and then came down here. Your journey took you to Cabo first, then up here. But essentially, your real estate career, the marketing definitely helped in your real estate career, and I know that you've got a strong pipeline for Colorado, and you do a lot of marketing back there. Talk about what you see as the key ingredients for, let's say, resort area real estate.
I mean, the key ingredients is being able to have the conversation with the buyer first and figure out. I get people, sometimes they don't know the difference necessarily between Todos Santos and Cabo, or the two Cabos. Most people don't even really understand that there's actually two very independent and very distinctly different Cabos. So it depends on the buyer's knowledge of the area. If they've been down here on vacation once, if they've been spending a lot of time down here. So educating people on the differences and what they're looking for. If people are looking for that golf course, that gated community feel and that sort of thing, well, that's not really our specialty up here, so I would direct them to the Cabo market. If somebody in the Cabo market comes down and feels overwhelmed, if they're maybe from Summit County and stuff like that, and they feel overwhelmed by the amount of people, the traffic, and just the overall busyness of it, that's what we do excellent up here. We don't have any of that. Like up here, we're more of a Summit County lifestyle. We're more laid back, quiet, chill. We joke around it's Baja midnight. The restaurants shut at 8 or 9 o'clock at night unless there's live music. Then it goes to a whopping 10 o'clock at night. So really working with that buyer, sitting down with them and being able to figure out what it is that they're looking for and understanding, and being able to educate them at least initially on that high level of what the difference are between our markets, because we see obviously very significant difference between the Todos Santos area, which would include Pescadero and Cerritos in that, Cabo San Lucas, and then San Jose, where I lived for a while. Three very different buyer personas, I would say.
It's really true, and coming from the perspective of San Jose / Cabo up here, working with, I mean, you really have to differentiate the markets. It's like if you're from Summit County, for me, it's almost like Los Cabo is kind of a Breckenridge of Summit County, where we might be Dillon, Frisco, you know, kind of that area, and it's a whole different scenario. So how's the adjustment been for you, bringing the family up here, working in real estate up here? What do you see? What are some of the major differences you see in clients and systems?
You know, I mean, our adjustment up to here was pretty easy for us because this is more of our lifestyle in general. We were a little bit, I mean, I still love San Jose. I think it's a great city. We were a little bit of fish out of water because we hadn't lived in a big city. I mean, I grew up outside of New York City, and that I left there 3 years ago. So I hadn't really lived in an environment like that in a long time. So our adjustment with the family here was pretty easy. The community here is so welcoming. We never really also found our niche in our community in San Jose, and here we felt like we almost immediately found our community here. And then, so that was on the personal side. And then the schools for kids, like we have amazing school opportunities here. My family doesn't necessarily believe me when I tell them we have better schooling choices here than we had in Colorado, because we lived in also a small community in Colorado. So we have more choices here for schools. We've been to a couple different ones till we found the right fit for our older son, and he's just thriving, and it's just like an amazing atmosphere for him. And then on the business side, for me, the systems and operations that we have here at Rare is just next level compared to what a lot of other people are doing right now. So that has been, I think, just an amazing experience from my career, and to learn more on the legal side, because the legal side was never really my specialty. So as you pointed out, sales and marketing and community relations and stuff like that was kind of where my career had taken me for most of the time. So now I feel like I'm getting a crash course in the legal side of real estate, which is really makes me feel like a well-rounded agent.
What about client difference? Do you recognize a difference in the clients that we get here compared maybe to the San Jose, Los Cabo market?
I feel like there is a difference. There is some crossover. San Jose is much chiller than Cabo San Lucas. Yeah. The people that are in Cabo San Lucas, they kind of want to be walking distance to the party scene, and they want to be walking distance to the marina. Maybe they want to come in and go fishing and drink beers all day and stuff like that. My clients in San Jose are more like, oh, there's an art walk on Thursday night, there's organic markets on Saturday. So it's like a bigger version of what we have going on here. The clients here are people that are like, I want to come down and just get off the beaten path when I'm here, whether it's for the whole winter. Some people come down 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Some people pepper their trips, come for a week at a time on and off throughout the year. People that are coming here are really looking for that like escape, maybe they're really successful back home or whatever they're doing, or maybe they've worked a construction job their whole life and they've saved a little bit of money and they're finally ready to just actually relax and put their feet up. And those people are looking in this area because it's just so much more relaxed. We don't have traffic. It's also, this is admittedly not the golf crowd. There are not golf courses everywhere and stuff along those lines. It's just a different persona. We have surfing year round right here, which is pretty amazing. I hadn't even really realized how good the surf can be in the summer here.
Yeah.
It's smaller for sure, but for that, especially for that mountain person that didn't grow up at the beach, it's amazing. I had an incredible time surfing last winter. So I'm always telling people that too. And our weather here, like right now, it's roastingly hot in San Jose already, and here we are. You got long sleeves on.
Yeah.
It's almost noon, and it's perfectly comfortable.
It's actually May and June to me are some of the most beautiful months here. You had touched on, moving your family up here. Let's talk about a family that's coming from a different area, U.S., Canada, even mainland Mexico. And we're seeing a lot more of that, the transition from part-time homeowners to maybe full-time family, or rather than the large retirement community, which we still have. We're getting a lot more younger families moving to the area for lifestyle change, for working remotely. Give your experience, kind of transcribe your experience on what it was like, and what advice you would give to other families that are relocating here, looking for a place.
I mean, we are seeing an exponential increase in that. And granted, I haven't been here as long as you have to see that growth curve, but when we came here, even from San Jose, we saw so many more families that were living here full-time, not doing the part-time, not doing just the winter and then turning around and going back as soon as the weather changes back home. So my advice is to come down and spend a little time and see which area fits your lifestyle. And knowing here that the family community has been amazing. We didn't really find that as much down in the Cabo area. I'm sure it exists, but here the families were much more welcoming, and they're much more our type of people that we really fit in with. There are people that lived an adventurous lifestyle somewhere else at some point and then decided that they wanted to settle down while they had kids, and they picked this area because you can still live that adventurous lifestyle, and just the pace of life and the way of life here is a little bit easier than in the States. That family dream of that white picket fence and 2 kids and a dog and that sort of stuff is becoming a little bit no matter where you fall on the political spectrum in the U.S., it's becoming a little out of reach right now, and it's becoming very difficult. And not to say that we don't have to work hard down here, and that this is certainly not the most affordable place in all of Mexico, but that lifestyle is still attainable here without the 40-hour a week, just even on a commute. People are commuting to work 40 hours a week, but then they're working 50 or 60 hours a week and commuting 10 hours a week. Like, I have family and friends back home that have been just working for 30 years straight, and it's like you don't even have time to stop and enjoy your life. And I think that's what the lifestyle here offers, that opportunity. While it's still not the cheapest place in Mexico, it still offers you the opportunity to work, be successful, but also enjoy that life. And I hate the work-life balance thing, because work and life go together. It's not really 2 separate things. So being able to do all of that together, I think, to me, is the key.
So let's talk a little bit. We've talked about kind of how you wound up here, family relocating. It's super important. You have 2 young boys. You mentioned the school systems in Todos. Let's segue in a little bit to, I know, because you're kind of a statistic guy. You follow the MLS pretty carefully. Talk to us about what you see right now in the current market. Like, we know we're coming off the COVID years. It's been an amazing market, both in San Jose and up here. But talk about what you see the current condition of this market in let's say, the first quarter of 2025, and what you can see for what it's going to look like maybe in the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Well, I think what we know right now is that we're seeing a lot of price reductions in the market, but what that is not translating to is an actual reduction in overall average pricing. We're still seeing average pricing increasing at a more reasonable and steady rate. I want to say it was 9% in the first quarter here of 2025 over the same time period in 2024. So we're still seeing an increase. It's a little bit more palatable. 25 and 30% increases every year are not sustainable for any market.
Right.
So in that 5 to 10% is much more reasonable. It means your investment's safe, but it also means that you're not going to get stuck overpaying. We are seeing some price reductions right now, and we're seeing sellers being much more willing to negotiate. I always try to explain to our buyers here that our market's a little different. Things stay on the market much longer because people are generally not, while there's some instances where there's owner financing or some people have a local mortgage, those are the few and the far between exceptions. People don't have mortgages. They put stuff on the market. They're willing to sit and wait for a while. Where in the States, people are carrying their mortgages. They're pricing to sell within the next 30 to 60 days. Here, people are pricing and thinking that they could wait a little while. But what we're seeing right now is still people that are getting maybe a little more antsy and wanting to sell. So they are reducing their price or being more willing to take a lower offer or negotiate on different offers. Where I'm kind of recommending clients that if we take their price of where they're at right now based on a number of factors, nothing across the board obviously, but I'm almost looking at 10%, as at least a starting point, maybe even in certain circumstances, depending on what the comps say, maybe even a little bit lower, depending, you have to be able to tell if that person, when they priced it, was pricing it with the fairy tale pricing in mind, or pricing it like, I realistically want to sell this in the next 3 to 6 months. And that is something you have to work on the ground with your agent. They have to do that work themselves and figure it out, because pricing here is just a little bit all over the place sometimes.
It really is, and that's a great point. And to know the difference of what you described as fairy tale pricing and kind of feet on the ground pricing is a big difference.
Yeah. So that's what I'm telling clients now. And then everybody uses the same caveat. None of us in real estate have a crystal ball. We can't tell you what's going to happen in 6 months, 12 months, especially understanding the interesting situation in the U.S. right now. Things changed quickly, but we're still seeing extremely high demand for this area. We're seeing this area growing. We're seeing infrastructure being improved. We're seeing money coming in from inside of Mexico and outside of Mexico. And then you look at Mexico as a country as a whole. Mexico is an amazing place that sometimes in the U.S., depending where you're at, gets a bad rap. It's just really not justified. Obviously, it has its own issues in certain areas, just like the U.S. has plenty of issues in its own areas. But the interesting thing that you're seeing right now is the middle class in Mexico is growing exponentially, and it's way outpacing the growth of middle class in the U.S. It's approaching 50%, where in the U.S. it's shrinking, and it's going to be under 50% soon. And we're seeing that here. When you notice it on the ground here, you're seeing business and infrastructure throughout the country increase. You're seeing manufacturing increase. Mexico feels like it's on its way up, and it feels like we're going to see more money and more investment coming in as people seek a lifestyle. I tell people sometimes this feels more like Malibu in the 50s and 60s, you know, when it was really cool, when it was still affordable. It wasn't cheap, but it was still affordable. It was a little bit of the Wild West, but not totally. And it feels like that sort of era around here right now.
It's a great comparison, and talking about the Mexican economy in general, you kind of spot on. You could see how Mexico has increased in manufacturing. Mm-hmm. The middle class of Mexico has grown significantly to essentially not existing before.
Yeah.
Now, minimum wage has grown. It's just the lifestyle and the growth of the economy. And there's, tourism is still the number one, right? And retention, people sending back money from the U.S. and stuff, but we're really experiencing industry growth, infrastructure growth, and the government is much more proactive down here. As far as since I've been down here, I've been down here 25 years, in business for 20, and just seen the progressiveness of the Mexican government at a federal, state, and municipal level. Yep. And so, that's a really good point. What about, let's talk about this. Would you, a lot of people in Cabo, I pay attention to the Cabo market. I listen in to different podcasters down there. A lot of people are saying that it's a buyer's market in Cabo right now. What would you call it up here?
Again, I think it depends a little bit on the individual, on the properties that you're looking at. I think we're starting to feel like it's a bit of a buyer's market right now. We have a decent bit of inventory, and I think, as you stated, you haven't really seen the inventory pick up like this in a number of years. But when you really still drill it down to when a client gives you the parameters of what they're looking for, and you put it into the MLS, you're not coming back with 20 or 30 options for those people.
That's right.
You're only coming back with a handful. And then normally, if you are the agent on the ground, you can normally lop off a couple of those just from your own personal experience with them. So we're not. I personally, even though this may go against some of the statistics, I don't feel like it's an overwhelming buyer's market, and I don't feel like the inventory, even though it's higher than it was. We also got a little jaded, and the same thing happened in Colorado when the market started changing and people started saying oh, there's so much more inventory, and it was but you're comparing to the last 5 years, which is historically the lowest inventory we've ever seen anywhere. So the increase that we're seeing from that is not necessarily historically relevant. So I would defer to you to see what you think the inventory is compared to your 20 years of experience here.
It's the point you bring up is really clear and significant. People think we've transitioned. Our market is different than Cabo, and the inventory has kind of grown a bit, and I think it's a lot of it, and people don't recognize, is that we have a large foreign community of people who have been retired for a while. They're on fixed incomes. They've been down here for a while. for health reasons or just getting closer to their kids and grandkids. A lot of what we're seeing now, the inventory, are people that have been down here for a while and are ready to move closer to their families or just making changes based upon health or whatnot. So we're seeing that's a large part of our market and the inventory that's growing. The mindset to me is that, hey, this is still a really strong market. I want to get while the getting's good, you know, and there's that. So I kind of agree. I think that, you know, there may be more inventory with houses, not so much property, but also like you had mentioned, the inventory has been low and stuff has been selling like crazy. So we don't have, you know, if we have a year of inventory or 2 years of inventory, that's a lot for now, you know, not like a 15, 20 year inventory list based on sales.
And I think part of the difference in what Cabo is seeing, and they're going to maybe struggle a little bit more with, is that there's so much pre-construction and so much condo development, and now it's crept into San Jose, where when I was there for 2 years, there was really like a very limited amount of condo projects that were going on, and now, for better or worse, there's a lot of condo projects, and that can change. That changes the dynamics of the market because you're dumping in so many properties at once. We don't really see that here. We see a little bit of it in the Cerritos market. There's some projects coming online and ones that have been in the works for a while, but still, even with a handful of those projects, it pales in comparison. You could go into El Tizal in Cabo San Lucas, and you would say that even just in one section of that, there's more new construction going on there in terms of condo projects than there is in almost the entire Pacific side here.
This is a great point that John's bringing out. If you're buying air here, it's usually a piece of land, a piece of dirt. We're not a large pre-construction market. It does exist, as John mentioned, mostly in Cerritos, but we're a finished product kind of dirt area, and I think a lot of people, when they see something done or someone building a spec home that's halfway done, it's a lot more. You know, people can wrap their hands around that, kind of wrap their, like, hey, this is, I could see this, I could visualize it. So what advice would you have for a seller in this market?
I mean, it's sitting down with that person and understanding their goals. Like, are you needing to get out of this right now? Like, do you need to go back to the States for health reasons, for yourself, for a family member, or a job, or whatever it may be? Like, are we on a time crunch here? Or are you just like feeling like it's about time and you're happy to hang for a while longer? Or do we need to sell immediately? So there's different pricing strategies for different folks. Do they absolutely need to maximize their return on their investment? Do they need the most money out because they have to maybe buy something in the States or whatever it may be? So talking about with them with that, really trying to get people off the fantasy pricing, off the 2021, 22, like you can price it, you can name your price and somebody's going to come buy it, try to get them back off of that ledge and back into more reality pricing. To know that it is we sound like realtors when we say this, but it's a really good time to sell and it's a really good time to buy. And that is the nature of the beast down here. We're seeing lifestyle purchases across the board from people that are in retirement age and people that are just fed up with the grind and want to come down for a different lifestyle, and those folks didn't necessarily exist in droves the way they do now 5 and certainly 10 years ago. They were the people at the forefront of that movement, like yourself, but there was not as many as we're seeing right now.
I think that John makes some really good points, and I think it's the level of knowledge and professionalism that he brings to this area in real estate, that he's able to kind of see the market for what it is, and he's absolutely correct in calling it a duality market right now. I'd like to thank John for the time today, and also to the owners of Via Paraíso for allowing us to broadcast from this lovely place. It's a great spot to do a podcast from, and so I really appreciate that. John, did you want to have any closing comments?
No, I mean, thanks for having me, Richie. Thanks for having me part of the team. It's been an incredible year. It's hard to almost believe, it feels like I've been here, forever, but also like a year has gone by really fast at the same time, that duality. But I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chat with you. And as always, I appreciate the opportunity of working with you. And let's have a great summer.
Yep, I agree. Thanks everyone for tuning in. You can catch this podcast along with others on Rare Conversations on Spotify or YouTube. Thank you very much.